Hey guys, and welcome to the dating game with Troy Francis, with myself, Troy Francis, dating coach for over a decade. I've taught guys all over the world about the art and the craft of meeting women and having successful dating and romantic lives. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is delving into 8 tests that women give to men that men aren't even aware of. Okay, now you've probably heard a lot about the idea of women testing guys. Okay, sometimes it's called shit tests, which is a term I never particularly like. It's a little bit vulgar, but whatever. It's a term that's out there on the internet. Many of us know what it means. It's when women will deliberately do things or say things to sort of provoke the guy so that he responds in some way, and then in the manner in which he responds, she's gonna evaluate him on that basis. Okay, so she might say something like, you walk up to her in the bar and you're like, "Hey, you look really nice. Wanted to come say hi," and she's like, "Oh, are you one of those players?" Or, "Oh, do you say this to all the girls?" Or, "Oh, do you do this regularly?" Or something like that. And depending on how you respond to that test, she's going to make an opinion based on you. Okay, so firstly, why is it that women do this? Why is this a phenomenon in the first place? Well, the thing that you need to understand is that because we're all hardwired basically biologically, right? We're still informed by the same script that we were many thousands of years ago. What women are looking for essentially in the men that they get together with are a couple of things: survival, the opportunity for survival at least, and replication. Okay, so are you somebody who's going to be able to protect her, to look after her, and are you somebody who has good genes, who she may potentially want to replicate or reproduce with? Now, obviously, in the modern dating arena, not every, most people aren't having kids off the back of meeting in the club in Miami or whatever, but that's the underlying wiring that's dictating these interactions. Okay, still. So the reason that women test is for these things. Okay, they want to find out, are you actually what you're presenting as? Now, particularly because guys have got somewhat wise to the art of seduction, let's say. Okay, there are channels like the content like I've made and many other people have made that demystify all this stuff, and so guys have worked out that not to fake it exactly, but there are ways that you can present yourself which are going to give her the indication that maybe you are a higher caliber match than perhaps you actually are in objective reality. Okay, so this is why women test, because for them, remember, this is extremely important, because if she were to get pregnant, and again, that's not generally speaking what happens in the modern sort of hookup culture, but if she were to get pregnant, okay, to you, then she wants to know those things. Is this guy actually the alpha male or the high value male that he is putting himself forward as, or is he playing a little bit of an act, and then I'm going to be carrying the child of somebody who is inferior to who I could have got? Okay, so it makes sense on a biological level, even if you might find it somewhat annoying, or you might think, well, why can't women just be more straightforward? Why does it have to be all this game playing and everything else? But that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Okay, it's this basic thing about survival and replication. Okay, and those are the fundamental things that women look for. All right, ideally in the same guy. Okay, ideally she wants the guy who is the Jason Statham, guy who's going to be able to protect her, who, if things get nasty, he's going to be able to step in and sort it out. He's capable, he's competent, he's physically in great shape. And he's also decent looking, he's got good genes. He has a position in society or whatever. He's going to be able to, it's the sexy son kind of theory. He's going to be able to give her good, high quality offspring. Okay. Now, those are kind of things she's screening for. All right. And also just to find out if you're basically a faker or not. All right. And women are going to do this to varying degrees. It kind of depends, the type of woman you're dealing with, maybe where you are in the world. I mean, for example, if you are somewhere like, Miami or London or New York or one of these big centers where dating is quite competitive and there's a lot of high value guys there, well, maybe less so New York actually, because there's more women than men there. But certainly some of these other places, women are going to be very careful to make sure that the dudes that they're dealing with are what they appear to be. Some tests are very obvious. Okay. So she might say something like, "Oh, I think you're too old for me," or "Oh, I don't normally go for guys with brown hair," or something like that. Okay. And that might be a genuine disqualifier. Maybe she does think you're too old for her, or you are genuinely not her type, and okay, fine. But equally, it might be that she's thrown something in there in order to see how you react. Okay. Because what she wants really is a guy who's not just going to fall at the first hurdle. Okay. Because if she throws in a little test and you fail that test, or you don't even attempt to counter it, or you don't do anything, then she's going to think, well, how's this guy going to protect me in any other more meaningful real life situation? Like, what happens if, a band of marauding miscreants come into this bar and start causing shit? Is this guy going to stand up for me? Is he going to help me? Etc. Etc. Okay. So there are the more overt, kind of obvious tests. You get a lot of these written about online. You'll see videos about them and so on and so forth. There are some other things, though, that I believe are more subtle tests. Okay. And we're going to talk about a number of those today. I've got a list of 8 of them here. We might have some bonus ones as well if you're very lucky. Okay. So we're going to go into that. Before we do, please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We're over 2,000 subscribers now. So thank you very much. We're growing very fast. And if you think this content is likely to help somebody that you know, a friend or a relative, then please pass them the link or share this on your social media for people that might be interested. I'd really appreciate that. And give me a like on this video as well. Anyway, in saying that, let's get into the list of these more subtle tests that men don't even really realize are tests. The first one, okay, is how you handle it when the conversation gets boring, or more specifically, when she makes the conversation boring. Okay, I'll say it again. How do you handle it when she makes the conversation boring? Now, what will often happen on dates is that women will, to some extent, self-sabotage themselves. Okay, women will go on the date, and she might like you. She might be physically attracted to you. She thinks you're cute, whatever. And she will then, you guys are having a conversation. She will start talking about something that's relatively boring. Okay. So a classic thing is work. She might start talking about her job, complaining, "I had to do this. We've got this new CRM system. It's really complicated. I can't figure it out. The IT manager keeps giving me grief," etc., etc., etc. Obviously, incredibly boring stuff. All right. Now, bear in mind, you haven't brought this up. She's brought this up. Okay. This is the topic that she has initiated. Now, 9 times out of 10, the guy on the date is going to be, he's just going to go along with the topic that she's brought up because he thinks, firstly, well, she brought it up. She wants to talk about it. So I'm going to go along with that. And secondly, maybe she wants some advice about this imaginary IT problem that she's having. So maybe I can help her with that. And, I'm here to learn more about her and she wants to talk about this. And so it's all good. Okay. That, however, is a mistake because what you've done inadvertently is you've failed a very subtle test. And what's going to happen is that you'll talk about that. Maybe you'll talk about a few other things. The date finishes. You go your separate ways. And then she's going to go home and she's going to think, Jesus fucking Christ, that guy was boring. She's going to think, God, I can't believe it. I went on a date with this guy and we spent 45 minutes talking about the IT situation at work. Fuck, how boring is that dude? Okay. Now, you can say that's completely unfair because it was her that brought up that topic. It was her that chose to talk about that topic. But what actually happens is that you failed a very subtle test that she probably wasn't even aware that she was presenting to you, which is, are you able to command a conversation in a way that makes it exciting, that makes her feel emotion? Okay. And the way you do that, quite simply, is by what they call cutting conversational thread. So if the conversational thread is work or it's some minutiae around some crap that's going on in her work, then it's down to you as the guy. You can humor that for a couple of minutes and then you're like, anyway, but look, let's talk about something else. Tell me where, if you could go anywhere in the world now, where would you go? The Seychelles. That sounds fucking amazing. What is it about the Seychelles that you like? I could just imagine us both in the Seychelles now. Could you imagine it? You know, the sunshine, the sand, bloody, bloody, blah. Future projection, they call it. Okay. You move off the topic, the boring topic, which is not going to get you anywhere, and you take it somewhere more interesting. You take it somewhere where, you know, to somewhere, something that she's passionate about, that she's excited about, that can make her feel some kind of emotion. Okay. If you fail to do that, even though she's initiated that topic, she's going to associate the boredom that she feels in that conversation with you. So you failed the test, because the test was, is this guy able to take me out of my mundane reality and make me feel something else? Because remember, most women, like most guys living in a big metropolitan city like London, they're living fairly boring lives. You know, they're doing jobs perhaps they don't particularly like. There's a lot of internal office politics. It's all a bit boring. It's a bit shitty, whatever. When they meet a dude, they don't want to be talking about that shit. Or at least they don't want to be talking about that shit 24/7, or certainly not on a first date. Okay. They want to escape from that. The whole thing about romance, if you think about romance in the old fashioned sense, she wants to feel excitement. She wants to be taken away from the boring nonsense of her daily existence. Okay. Are you the guy who's going to do that or not? If you don't, if you allow that conversation to continue, then you're not stepping up to the plate in that sense, and she's likely to disqualify you. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, and this is very important, is how you treat the staff in the venue where you go. And look, I mean, if you treat the staff badly and you treat the people around you badly, that is not going to create a good impression on her. And look, I know there's this thing in the space, you know, guys think, well, I've got to be super alpha, I've got to be super dominant, you know, I am the 1% male here, so this bloke's just a server, so I'm gonna tell him what's up, and I'm gonna like be rude to him or whatever, and I'm not gonna tip and all this kind of stuff. But if you act like that, she's gonna think, all right, this guy, he's just, you know, he's just a bit of a waster, because that is not classy behavior. Okay. And what she's really looking for is a guy with class who, yes, may be successful in his own right, who hopefully is successful in his own right, but also has respect for other people, including those people who are not on the same level as him. Okay. Because that makes you, as I was saying in another video that I did about this, you've got to display some degree of empathy. Okay. You can't be the super cold Patrick Bateman kind of character 24/7. It's, in most cases, it's not going to fly with women, or at least it's not going to fly for very long. She might like it for a bit, but in the end, she's just going to be like, this guy is just, there's something that is too cold about this guy. There's something that's missing here. Okay. So with the people around you, you want to show the staff, the service people, you know, the doorman, whatever. You want to show a degree of warmth, right? You want to treat those people with respect, okay? Because the other thing as well is that she's going to intuit from that. Okay, so if he's treating these people badly, and he's in this, you know, you could argue position of power, since he's the customer, he's paying. How's he going to treat me in the relationship? Okay. So, you know, everything like that, she's going to judge you on. And that is a very, very easy test to fail. Okay. How you treat the staff, how you treat the people around you. Very, very easy to fail. Often I'll talk to girls. She's been on a date. She said, yeah, I like the guy, but he was just super rude to the staff. And I was just like, you know, this guy, no class. I'm not feeling it. Get rid of him. Block. Okay. So just make sure that you don't fuck up there, because that's a very easy one to mess up if you're not careful. Okay. The next one is in regard to the bill. Okay. Now, this is something that gets, or the check if you're American, right? This is something that gets discussed a lot. Who pays the check, etc., etc., etc. on dates. My view, you pay the check. Okay. So that's simple. And ideally, you don't want to even look at the check when it arrives. Okay. And you certainly don't want to be sitting there. Sometimes, people open up the check and they go through and they get their calculator out and they're starting to add it up and like, oh my God, wait a minute, have we been charged twice for the asparagus and getting the waiter over and all that kind of thing? All of that stuff. Firstly, it makes you look like a brokey, which is not a good look, okay, for most women in 2024. And secondly, it just makes you, even if it doesn't make you look like that, it does make you look like you're sort of overly pedantic. You're a bit of a tight ass, a tight wad, however you want to term it. Again, not attractive. Okay, it's not attractive to be tight with money. We're not saying just be wildly extravagant and spend money that you don't have and try to impress her or anything like that. But at the same time, being somebody who is just like very, very tight fisted with their money, it's an incredible turnoff for women. It's just, and it's not just from the point of view of the financial resources side of it. It's just, it just shows somebody who doesn't have much joy de vivre, right? Somebody who doesn't have much lust for life. Okay, if you're like counting every last penny and you're like, oh shit, what about this? It just doesn't display like what does she really want? She wants somebody who's kind of a risk taker. We always talk about, somebody who's somewhat impulsive, someone who has this kind of adventurous side, someone who doesn't sweat the small stuff too much. Okay. Now you could say, well, money's very important. Money's not the small stuff, but in a way it is because you can always make more money, right? You know, if you are, and especially, I mean, the worst thing you can do is try to split the bill with her. Obviously, you never want to do that. And look, even if the date goes badly, here's my advice: even if the date goes badly and it's obvious you guys are not going to see each other again, still pay the bill anyway. All right, just fuck it. Just like it's part of the cost of entry to the game. It's not kowtowing to her. It's not simping. It's not anything. It's just you're the guy. You asked her on the date, presumably. Okay. Just do it, right? That is your role. Okay. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is don't be trying to split it and trying to sort of quibble over it and all that kind of stuff. It's just a very, very bad look. And that's not, as I say, not even getting into the issue of if she's looking for somebody with financial resources, which potentially she is, okay. But even getting aside from that, it's a bad look. It's not something you want to get into. Ideally, you want to they give you the bill, the check, whatever you call it. You open it, you put your card in, give it back to them. That's it. Done. Okay. That's how you want to operate. Okay. Because the most important thing is not that. All right. The most important thing is not quibbling over, $10 that maybe they mischarged you because they put an extra drink on there. The key thing is you and me, the chemistry that we've created between us, right? That's the important thing. That's the thing you should be concentrating on. That, again, very easy test to fail. And the very worst thing you can do is go on a date and it doesn't go very well. And then you message her later and you ask her to Venmo you the money to pay for the drinks. Which I recently, it's the kind of thing you read on Reddit, but somebody recently told me a story in real life about that. I mean, fucking hell. Just don't be that guy. You go on a date, it doesn't go well. Maybe she doesn't want to see you again. Just take the fucking L, man. Jesus Christ. I mean, you're not winning points. And I think this is one of these things. Sometimes when, there's a lot of these like manosphere shows and stuff like that, and people talk a lot about, well, we should hold women accountable and all this kind of thing. And yeah, there's something to be said for that. But, look, if you are having if you are having a problem with paying for a couple of drinks in a nice bar to go on a date with somebody, then really you shouldn't be dating, right? You should be working on your hustle. You should be grinding. You should be sorting out your money before you're getting into that. Okay. And again, I'm not saying, attract gold diggers, blah, blah, blah. It's just that you should be in a position because that's the masculine role. Okay. The masculine role is, okay, I'm going to handle this. This is just part of what I do. This is just how I am. All right. Regardless of whether it goes well or not. Hope that makes sense. It's very easy thing to fuck up. So don't do that. How you handle mild disrespect from her. Okay. This is a little bit more of an obvious one, I suppose. And this is a little bit more what people think about when they think about tests or shit tests. She might say something, she might drop something in that is mildly disrespectful to you in some way. I like say, you work in the finance, and she said, "Oh, so you're one of those boring city guys. You're at your computer like 24/7. You haven't got a social life." Say she said something like that, and it's kind of a joke, but it's also a little bit of a dig. Okay, so how do you handle something like that? And 9 times out of 10, the way to handle it is by effectively ignoring it, or just brushing it off, or just kind of like laugh and go, haha, yeah, anyway, and then changing the subject. Okay. The last thing that you want to do is get butt hurt. Okay. The last thing you want to do is get butt hurt or start arguing with her or start trying to prove that no, I'm not like that. I'm actually like this. Because when you do that, you start to look reactive. Okay. Reactivity, being reactive in front of a woman, is unattractive to her. Why is that? Well, quite simply, because if she can affect you emotionally like that, and you guys don't even know each other that well yet, presumably it's like a first or second date, you probably not even slept together yet. If she can affect you, if she can upset your equanimity, if she can cause you to be emotionally unbalanced by saying some dumb thing, then again, how are you going to handle it when the shit really hits the fan? When there's a problem with another guy, or there's a problem, you know, I don't know, with work, or there's a problem that occurs where she needs your support. How are you going to handle that if you can't even handle some stupid joke from her? Okay, so calmness and emotional composure. Okay, super key, and you really need to practice that. And even if internally you're a little bit annoyed, she says something like, "Oh fuck that," that pissed me off. You want to hide that. Okay, you don't want to rise to it. You don't want to react to it. Now, the only caveat to that is if we're talking about actual, outright, full on disrespect. Okay. And occasionally, not very often, occasionally that will happen. In my lifetime, I've probably been on a couple of dates. Let's say I've been on many dates throughout my life. I probably, on a couple of occasions, been on dates where the woman has actually said something genuinely disrespectful, that's genuinely crossing the line. Okay. And if that happens, then you're perfectly within your rights to say, okay, listen, for me, that crossed a line. That was unacceptable. I'm going to leave now. Have a great rest of the evening. And then you can get up and go. Okay. That's fine to do. And then obviously you just block her, and the intention is never to see her again. Okay. But that's going to be in a minority of cases. All right. And if you think that that's happening to you a lot, it might be because you're too sensitive and you're taking this stuff too seriously. Okay. Because really, and everyone's going to have to decide for themselves where that red line is. What is actual disrespect versus joking around? I think it's pretty clear. I mean, if she says something really horrible about, I don't know, your family, or the way that you look, or you can probably imagine the kinds of things that I'm talking about, then you might think, okay, fine, that is beyond the pale. That is not acceptable. And yes, absolutely. At that point, fine, get up, walk out. But again, don't argue with her. Don't get into it with her. Don't get into a back and forth. Just get up and walk out. Okay. But for the most part, when she's just kind of messing around and she's pushing the boundaries a little bit and testing, then just ignore it. Or the other thing you can do, which can be even better, is of course to tease her back. All right, to find little things about her and sort of put it back on her. And that's where we get into banter, which is the subject for another video, or like playfulness. So you can also use that. But certainly, getting butthurt, getting emotional is absolutely not the way you want to go. You will fail the test. She'll recognize it. She'll pick up on it, even if subconsciously, and she likely won't want to see you again or deal with you. Okay. Um, some other things. What if she's on her phone the whole time? Okay. This is something that a friend of mine was talking about recently. We were in some other country, I think it was Colombia, and he said that he went on a date with this girl, and she's got her phone, and they're sitting down for drinks, and she's just on her phone the whole time, and she's like this, and she's looking at TikTok and whatever, and that's another form that's another form of disrespect, right? Now, in that instance, he did say to her, and he said to her, and I think he handled this correctly, actually. Um, he did say to her, sort of politely, listen, it seems like you've got quite a lot going on. You seem to be on your phone quite a lot at the moment. Is this a good time for us to have met up? Maybe you're really busy." She sort of said, "No, no, no. I'll just checking some stuff." And he's like, Okay, cool. I mean, normally what I like to do when I'm with somebody one on one, normally I prefer to like put my phone away and just because I want to get to know you on a one on one basis and sort of couch it in that more polite, reasonable sort of way. Okay, I think that is acceptable because yes, if you're out with somebody and they're just ignoring you and messaging other people all the time, then that's bad on their part. It also, by the way, doesn't display particularly high interest from her to you, which is not a good sign. So I think it is fine if it persists to make some sort of comment. But again, the watchword is not getting butthurt. It's not getting angry. It's not getting overly emotional. Okay, with all of this stuff, you have to remain composed. You have to remain somewhat stoic. Okay, so I think if she's on the phone the whole time, it's fine to say something, but I would give her a little bit of leeway because I mean, the reality is we're all sort of addicted to our phones now. Sometimes a girl, she might check a couple of messages or something and then put it down, and then you're just talking one on one. That's okay. I'm not going to blow a gasket because of that. It's more like if it's this continuous thing and she's actually doing it in quite a rude way, then I probably would say something. And if she continued with it, then I probably would at that point say, look, it just seems like you've got a lot going on at the moment. Maybe this isn't the right time for us to be, to be sitting down having this drink. I'm gonna head now. Hope you have a great rest of the evening, and then go. Okay. Um, so I would give her one chance, and then I would leave. But once more, doing it in that polite, measured sort of manner is the watchword. What else do we have here? Um, okay. What about if she is late? So lateness on a date is, and remember, I'm couching all of these things as tests. And consciously, she's probably not doing this as a test. Consciously, she's not on her phone as a test. Consciously, if she's like 30, 40 minutes late to the date, she's not doing that as a test. She's doing it because she's probably disorganized and, whatever. There was bad traffic or something. But in reality, it constitutes a test because anything that she does, she's going to look at the manner in which you respond to it, and she's going to make a judgment based on that, on what you do. Okay, so what about if she's late? Okay, um, I would say it depends how late. I would also say it depends on if she messages you to apologize prior to that or not. Uh, how long do you wait for somebody? I mean, I would probably give her I don't know. If I get to the bar, I probably give her like 15 minutes or something like that. Maybe 20 minutes or something like that. And then I would then likely probably just leave, to be honest. If she hasn't sent me a message, she hasn't given me any reason. Because, it could be she wasn't going to come anyway. Okay. You don't know. Maybe she's just totally flaked on the date. You have no idea. Okay. So I give her a period of grace and then I would just leave. But if you're there and, she turns up, it's 20 minutes late, half an hour late, something like that. I would at that point make a joke about it. Okay. But I would make a joke about it in such a way that she could see that there's a degree of seriousness. I would make light of it. I would be like, "Oh, so are you normally half an hour late for these things, or your schedule must be extremely busy today to have kept somebody as awesome and such an English gentleman like me waiting for half an hour. Like, what the fuck?" So I kind of make light of it, but I would try to do so in a way that indicated that it wasn't really acceptable. You know what I'm saying? But once again, and this is the key thing to take from all of this whole video, is you can't get butt hurt. Okay, you cannot act like you're super insulted. If you start getting angry, if you start calling her out, if you start complaining about, the state of modern women and how modern women are always late and flaky and how your ex-girlfriend used to do this all the time and everything like that, it's a no-no. Okay. You might say, well, but I am angry about it. I do think it was disrespectful. Why shouldn't I call her out? And that's fine, but you've got to think about where you want to get to. And if you want something to happen with this woman, then, as I say, remember that she's judging you on effectively your stoicism. Really, she's judging you on how you emotionally react to things, and if you are acting emotionally to small-ish things that she's doing, then that doesn't say very much about you as a man. Because, as I said, when the shit really hits the fan, how are you going to hold up then? All right? Probably not very well. Okay? So, moderating your emotional response, regardless of how you feel, is very important in all of these things, unless the line has been completely crossed. And she has done something that's so out of order that it's like, okay, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. And then, what about okay, so here's another one, right? So she asks you what you do. Okay, now this isn't really a test per se, because it's kind of a very standard thing that people talk about on dates. Like, oh, so what do you do? Tell me about what you do. But how you react to that question, she is going to evaluate you on. And what you need to avoid doing is bragging. Okay. So what I tend to do is I try to be pretty vague actually about what I do. I'll say, well, I've got some digital online stuff, I've got some investments, I do some property stuff, and yeah. But anyway, tell me more about you, and I move the conversation onto her. Now I do that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because I think that the guy should retain an element of mystery really around himself. When you're on a date, you don't want to just give away everything on tell her your whole life story on day one, because then it's like, well, I know everything about this dude already. Well, I've got nothing left to find out. Boring. Okay. The other thing is as well, what you want to avoid is going, well, I've got like, 3 businesses and I employ all these people and I've got, jet skis and I've got all these cars and houses and stuff like that. Because the problem with that is, yes, on the surface, those things are attractive and, she's probably going to like that on some level. But in another way, it's kind of try hard. Do you know what I mean? And and we were talking about this last night. I did a live with Pearl and Sakana, and they were talking about this. And there's a very fine line between, yes, women want a high value man in inverted commas, but they don't want a high value man who has to boast about it. Okay. Because then you're getting into the sort of little man syndrome where it's like you have to broadcast it in order to draw people in. That looks weak. It looks try hard. It looks a little bit desperate. It looks a little bit needy. Okay. Your qualities should emanate from you naturally. Okay. It's about your dominance. It's about your eye contact. It's about how you come across when you're in her presence. The other stuff, the financial success, the monetary success, the assets, the life success, whatever else it is, those things are great, and she can find out about those in time. But the key thing that she's going to really evaluate you on is how you come across as a man in her presence, okay? And bragging about stuff kind of indicates that you don't think that you've got enough going on here, just in person as an entity, to impress her. So you've got to tell her about this other stuff, all right? Which again, very bad look. So avoid doing that. And then finally, how about if she brings up her ex? All right. Now, once again, it's not necessarily a test if a girl brings up an ex on a first date. I don't think it's particularly great first date etiquette for people to be bring up their exes. I think that's not really. I mean, I'd rather they don't bring up exes at all, to be quite frank. But I don't really think it's a thing to be talked about a lot on a first date. But she is gonna nevertheless look at how you respond to that, and the way to respond to it is extremely minimally. Okay, and what I mean by that is this. She brings up her ex and she's like, oh, he was a bastard. He was an asshole. He did this, he did that, he did the other. What you don't want to do is fall into the trap of going, oh my God, he sounds terrible. Oh, tell me more. Oh, what a bastard. Oh, I would never be like that. He sounds like such a terrible guy. You don't want to be doing that. Okay. And you also don't want to be well, obviously you don't want to be defending him, right? What you want to do is acknowledge it, go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Anyway, let's talk about this. All right. And you want to move off the topic once more, not in a sort of butthurt way, not in a kind of like, oh my God, I can't handle it, the fact that you've had an ex. It's not about that. It's just that in the current reality, right, you are the star of the show. Her ex is irrelevant, okay? Her ex is some dude who was, you know, whatever, right? Now you are the star of the show. You've got no interest in talking about some other dude, okay? Or indeed helping her over her trauma over some other dude. That's not your role. You're not a fucking counselor, okay? You are a man of value who is bringing new value into her life, which she can either accept or not accept, depending on what she wants to do, okay? But she is going to judge you negatively if, you know, you either start becoming the emotional tampon, shoulder for her to cry on, and asking for loads of details and really trying to help her, or, you know, slagging the guy off because you think that's going to curry favor with her, or getting angry because you're like, oh, why do you girls always talk about your ex on dates, blah, 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 blah. Any of that kind of stuff is a no-go. Again, be unemotional. Accept it. Just be like, okay, fine. Well, that's interesting. I'm sorry that happened. Anyway, how about this? And you move the topic on, okay? What you'll notice with all of these points, the underlying, I suppose, link between all of these is that a lot of it is about being unemotional to a large degree, or at least unfazed by what she does. Okay? And not taking umbrage, not getting insulted, not getting angry, not getting butthurt, or any of those kinds of things. Now, again, if she does something that really crosses the line, fine, then you might want to end the date, and that's absolutely your prerogative. But beyond that, it's more about being like, okay, that's cool. Now I'm going to lead the conversation somewhere else. Because remember, as the guy, it is your job to lead, and she's going to expect you to do that. And if you don't do that and the date is there boring as a result, or it's, you know, you're emotional, or you mess up somewhere, she's going to wake up the next day and she's going to blame all of that on you. Okay? So that's just how it is. Hope you found the video helpful. Hope you enjoyed this one. Please do give me a like. Please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We've got loads more actionable content like this coming up very soon. And hit notifications as well so you know when new videos coming out. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.